Welcome everybody back to another session of FMC IT class. You're welcome. I have here Brother Godson with us, and obviously I'm here as well, Pastor. Okay, so we're here to continue with the IT class training, and this time around we'll be looking at Excel Intermediate class part 2. So we looked at part 1 last 2 weeks now, 3 weeks ago. Yeah, 3 weeks ago. Now we're continuing with that. Okay, right. Okay. Thank you. So we're going to have the slides now. Right. Okay. So as you can see, we have Microsoft Excel part 2. So we'll be looking at Excel further. Okay. So Excel is such a very big application, vast in terms of its application and its use and what it can do. So we want to use, a few these sessions to demonstrate some of the features that it has, and more importantly, trying to bring across, the new features that can help you to be able to work effectively in your day-to-day use of the product. Okay. Right. Okay. So we move on. Right. Okay. You don't want to share with you. Okay. So with Microsoft Excel, our class intermediate, I'll pass on to Brother Godson, who will mostly drive this. But just for you to understand, it's an online tool and a powerful program for data analysis, documentation, charts, graphs, and many more. So just to give you a recap from last time we met, we went through launching the actual application and being able to look at some of the basic functionality, like in the formatting, and we went through that in detail. And you can obviously look at the previous video to get more information if you need to do that. But we want to go a bit further, and I'll hand over to Brother Godson to drive in this particular one. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right, just as Pastor K just mentioned, so the recap, as he's mentioned, we did last 3 weeks was formatting. We talked about the basic on how to open the Microsoft Excel, and also look at the buttons, the ribbons, the different type of ribbons. So we have a look at the home ribbon, insert, copy, paste, and all that. So what we're going to do today as well, just continue from where we stopped last time, look at other type of formatting and try to understand. So for example, I'm going to go back to do a quick demo on our spreadsheets. So we now know how to open the spreadsheets, and we've gotten to this stage. So we know what function the file ribbon it does, the home, inserts, layouts, formats. And just to do a quick recap as well, Pastor did last week, is if we take our column C, we can do a few things with that. We can highlight it, we can make it center, depending on what you want. You can also put currency on it as well if you want to. So it's quite there. You can just quickly go to General, scroll down, and we should find currency up here. And so again, that gives us, so that's a quick way to format our table quickly and try to understand a little bit. So this is what we're going to talk about today is other type of formatting. And there is one in particular called conditional formatting. So I'm going to go back to the slide. So if we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So as you can see from this slide, you can see the cell, again, showing the cell that I just opened earlier on. So we can apply different kind of formatting to the cell. So what we're applying is called conditional formatting. So conditional formatting is basically, this is where we can apply rules, certain rules to the defined column or rows. For example, we can set up a rules to look at the contents and the formatting of the column to make it easier for us to understand. So we're going to do more today about demo. So we're going to look at a lot of demos. So if I go back to the demo again on the spreadsheet, so what am I talking about when we talk about conditional formatting? So let's have a look. So we had this table, so we have already formatted it, but we also want to see, okay, I want to know those, okay, the amounts. So as you know, it's in currency, in pounds. Now I want to know which ones are the high and low amounts. Yes, these numbers are quite small enough, but imagine if you have like 1,000 values there for that amounts. So how do we get to know, and okay, say which ones are okay and which ones are not, so for example. So we can apply different kind of formatting to that. So one of the one I really want to talk about is color scale. So be aware that this is in American language, but it's color scale. So we can apply the traffic system. So right now you can see it is now bold. Those are the high amounts in green. The low amounts are in red, and in betweens are yellow. So again, so if we apply that rule now, so we can tell that, so you can see the difference. So for example, now if we are the next person, just for example, and call this person, let me say Paul, and we'll give Paul 27 pounds. So you can see automatically, so what I haven't done is let's put a currency. So you can see automatically it's gone yellow. So if I change this figure to 67, again, it goes green. So that's what conditional formatting does for you if you're using the color scales. So you highlight it and help you to know which ones are the low. So for example, imagine this is in the case of hospital or whereby, or even the banks, and you want to know which one, or your bank statements. So you can use this to do whereby running fund where the funds are low, you can actually highlight it yellow, and when funds are high within the threshold that you want. So basically that's rules that you can apply and set. So there are different kind of formatting. So you don't have to use this color if you don't want to use the traffic system. There are various colors you can choose from, depending on what you want. Initial, this is just highlight the column that you're interested in. Go to the formatting, then select the colors. So we can also use blue or pink. So it depends on what you want, whatever color that fits to you. So it's quite important as well. As well, if you don't want this formatting, can also do, okay, for example, if you want to take it out, you want to go back. So how do we take out the formatting, conditional formatting? Go to manage rules. So here you can define it. So we can now go back here. Basically go to here, delete rule. And once I click OK, so that changes the format. So you can go back again. So you can actually change what you want, but also you can apply different rules to it as well. So depending on what you want, you can select different rules that you want to apply to it. So another thing we can do while we're here is we can set up new rules. Okay. So we can do like a 3-color bar system. So basically we can now define lowest value. Again, this is what is going, basically this is what it did previously. The low value was giving me red. The medium values were more like yellowish, and the highest values were more of green. Again, so this gives you traffic light. But if you do want to change it, you can change it here as well. So you can apply different colors scheme that you want. It's quite easy to do that. So that's another way to apply new rules to what you are doing. And some cases we want to apply, what about, we're going to talk about that later on. When it's greater than, lower than, you can now apply certain rules to that as well. Or you want to top and bottom rule, or you want to use different pairs as well. So you want to use icons. For example, we can do icons as well. So when it's high, when it's low, tells you, and when it's in between, it's more of yellow. So it tells you. So we can, okay, green top means it's okay. Red down means it's lower. And yellow going across means it's just in between. So we can do that as well. So depending on what you want to do as well. If you do want to use the traffic lights again, as I mentioned, that can be done. You can apply that rules on certain of them. And again, there are different types of formatting that you can use. So this is one of the formatting that we didn't talk about last time, but again, shows you how you can format it again. So we can go back again. If you want to take it out, it's very simple. Manage rules, delete rule, and you apply it. So that goes out very quickly. Okay. So, Pastor, you want to add anything?
No, just to say that this is very useful for being able to, like Brother Gustin mentioned, if you have a spreadsheet with a lot of rows, maybe you have 1,000 rows, or even 100 rows, and you just want to know by visually seeing the rows, it helps to source them out. So you can say, right, okay, the rows with a higher number, I can just sort them by looking at the colors, and because by red means it's danger, for instance, green means it's good, and you can use that sort of functionality, and it's really good for sorting, So that's what I was add to that.
Definitely. Okay, so we go back to the presentation.
Yeah.
So we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so the next topic we want to deal with and go into more details are formulas and functions. So this is quite a lot, so we might not be able to finish it all today, but we want to start with the basic ones. So these are the ones that are quite useful. So for example, we talked about Microsoft Word last time, and Microsoft Excel basically can also use it more like it's very useful tool. So in terms of adding up, subtract, so if you can think, there are a lot of rules that you can apply, certain rules to your table, and to give you that information that you need. Okay. So if we go back to our presentation slide again, I'm just going to quickly talk about addition. So how do we do adding? So you might want to ask. So for example, we know 1, as we can put there, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. But how do we go about it in doing it in Excel? So there are various ways to do it. So we'll talk about the long form, and we'll also mention about the short form as well. So a quick one to start off with is just take, we talked about this last time. So you can click on the cell, so equals to, then click on the cells that you want. Click on the sign, so we are going to add plus, and we click on the next one and enter. So that gives us 2. So that's another quick way of doing it. So another way to do it again to get the 2. So if I go back through again, I'll run it through again. So we know that equals to cell C plus cell D, which is D11. So we're dealing with, as you can see, whenever you're dealing with this, on the left-hand side, it tells you which cell or number. Then the top tells you which column, but also the cell number letter as well. Okay. So that will go to the column E, cell E11. So that's where our total is. So we can put total on top here. So that's to do with our addition. So another way, what we also have in there is subtracts. So we're doing the long form at the moment. So we stick to our numbers again, 2 and 1. So what we can do is basically again equals to click on the cell that we're looking at. So that's C12. Then click on our sign, the minus. Then select D12. And now we can press enter. And that is giving us what our desired value is. Again, this is the long format, but we'll start with that, then I'll show you the shorter format as well. Okay, so what we have next, I think it was multiplication. So to multiply, so we can do 2 times 2, which is 4. 2. Again, when you click on the cell again, so equals to is very important when we're dealing with the formulas. Again, 2 multiplied by the cell D13 in this case, and that is equals to 4. And again, that's how we do that. So now one we will do was division. I'll just call it divide. So we know 4. So we say 4 and 2 to get back to our 2. So again equals to 4. And we use our divide. Okay. And that gives us 2. So this is again, simple to whatever you're doing, just know that the key is using the equal sign. You select the column. So in this case, we are talking about column C, and we want to divide column C with column D. So basically select column C equals to that. So we look at the numbers. So that's C14 divided by D14. And that will give us on the column E, will give us 2. Now, what about if we want to sum? Okay, add them up together. So there are various ways we can add all our totals by going, again, that plus this plus that. And plus this cell as well. And that gives us 9. But there are various ways you can do that as well. So if we delete that, we can highlight all together. Then on top here, we just say auto sum. So that adds everything up for us and it gives us 9. Or we can type it out ourselves. You can put the word sum. So this is where the sums. So you want to click sum, that comes up. So that's, then open your brackets. So it tells you here what numbers to do. So you do number 1 to number 2 to number 3. So we can actually highlight everything here, all the numbers. So there is this specific what it tells you to do. So each of the numbers that is a comma. Then you close brackets and press enter. So there are various ways to do it as well. Okay. So we'll go back to the slide. So if we just bear with me a sec. So we'll go back to the slide. So we have talked about addition, subtract, multiply, divide, and sum. So another thing we might want to talk about is the minimum and the max as well. So it's quite good to look at those aspects as well when we talk about that. And we also can deal with also to count as well. And we also do average and median and the concatenates as well. We can deal with that as well. But these are formulas that you find when you, if we go back to our demo. So for example, another way is when we go back here, so if we want to do the mean, All right, sorry. So we can now, so as you can see here, so the minutes here, so you can select that. So if you double click, it tells you which number do you want. So we can highlight all our numbers. Again, we can do it this way by putting commas, going to the next one, comma, comma. Again, this is the long route to do it. So if we click enter, that works our minimum. So we know, although visually looking, we know our minimum is 1, but that's another way to do it. But another way to do it as well is we go back to equals to, type in your minimum, highlight the columns that you're interested, the cells in those columns, and close the brackets and press enter. Again, that does that as well. So one of the functions that we're going to talk about is the max as well. So similar to the main, we go back to our total, where our totals are. So this time we might look at it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the amounts that we have here to look at it. To look at it in terms of the numbers. So let's look at the maximum in the numbers that we have. So we can put the max. Again, brackets, highlight, then close the brackets and click enter. So that tells us that in that place we 67, as we can see visually, 67 is the highest that we have. Okay, so that's another way we can do it. So it's quite easy to do that. So if we also want to look at it in our numbers that we have on the table, again, we click mass, highlight the cells in those columns, then close it. And that tells us our maximum. So if I take out the currency and put it back to general, so that gives us 4 as our maximum. And we know 4, if we visually look at them, we highlight them, we know 4 is the highest number there. Okay, so at this moment, I'll take a quick break and also ask Pastor if you want to chip in on the formulas software.
Yeah, I think thank you, Brother Godson, for the formulas. I think they're quite, you can see the power of Excel here, being able to manipulate numbers, manipulate the contents of the cells, and use it to extract information that you want. So, I mean, I know we're working with just a few rows, but if you can imagine if you had like 1,000 rows, you won't be able to visually see what's on them. But Excel allows you to do that, so you can actually work out the highest, the lowest, subtraction, addition, and another thing you could do, maybe to show as well, is maybe if I just put over here, just do some random numbers. Another thing you can do to do summation. If you highlight all, there's a what is that? You got this auto sum here. Can you see this? So if you just click on this, it will. Sorry. Yeah, I just put it at the bottom. Oops, mistake. You see, when you click on auto sum, it automatically adds them for you. So that's another shortcut you could use to do addition. So you just highlight the whole column. So I mean, if we say, for instance, we had, if I was to go like now, I've got those there, okay, and I want to calculate all of this. Instead of me bringing my calculator out to do everything, I can just highlight everything like that and press auto sum, and you can see it tells me what it is 492.
Yeah.
So it gives us the answer to it straight away, and that's a very shortcut way. But think about if you had to do this with your calculator. By the time you do this, I've already got the answer there. So that's the sort of things you can do with you. But yeah, thank you.
So as Pastor said, it does come useful when you have a large number sets to calculate, or also you want to look at it. So we also talk about multiplying it as well. So when you have a large number, so this comes very useful as well. That's how Excel is very useful. So you can imagine in banks and in other industries whereby data is very important, and that's why Excel is quite important. All right. So if we go back to our presentation slide, our deck. So the next we have is count. So you might ask, okay, for example, as Pastor mentioned, we'll go back to the demo in a few seconds. So how do we count? So we get a rows of numbers. You can say, okay, how much do you have in that row? So how many distance? So for example, the values that we're dealing are very low, but we want to know how many, for example, there's maybe 10 Johns that you have in there. You have John, you have Paul, you have Simon and all that. And you want to know how many Johns or how many Pauls and all that. So this is why count comes in useful. Okay, so we'll go back again to the demo. Okay, so the next one is count. And all these are quite simple to follow it. Again, it's just the equal sign. Is very key when you're dealing with a lot of formulas. So once you click that, it's already, Excel knows what you're about to do. And when you put the count, so it tells you what to do, you just follow the rules. So you ask you value 1, value 2, value 3. So in this case, we have highlighted them yellow. So we just highlight everything that we want on that cell. So we just want to know how many of them are there. We know visually it should be 4, and hopefully Excel should tell us that it's 4. So we know that there's only 4 values that are in this yellow box or this yellow cells that are highlighted. So again, so as Pastor mentioned before, so we are dealing with small data, or imagine if you have large data and you had large values of numbers or names or whatever you have. So again, this makes it much easier, but you can count how many are in there. We talked about counts. Another one I wanted to talk about is, you might ask, what about in case of where you have names? So we want to count numbers and names, for example. So the first one only gives us values of what we're looking about. If we want to look at other sets, so for example, we can look at our cell B. So if we do count A, okay, if I can select it. So we can now look at these 2 cells, for example. So let me click this now. We can now count everything in here. So let's know. So we know that it is 8. 8 plus 8 should be 16. So this should hopefully take account of that and give us 16. So we got both values and names. So this is where we can see. So count, when you use the count, something like count A is basically where you want to count everything in this in your table, both values and names or whatever you have, or dates or whatever you have. So you can use this as well to do that as well. Another one that we have in our slide is average. So again, with average as well, similar. We want to count how many was the average of our values or amount that we have there on this table highlighted yellow. Again, we type in, and cell knows what you're doing. It will tell you select the right one. Then it tells you to enter the numbers. Again, just highlight the cells in that column they're interested. Then close it with the brackets, and that gives us our average. So we know that our average is 2.5, 2.25. Finally, another one is the median. So that can be done similar as well. So again, the equal sign, median. Okay. So again, select your numbers. Okay. Thank you. And that's it. So the median, as you know, is always lower than our average, just the number in between. Okay. All right. So at this point, again, I will let Pastor say again, are there any additional comments?
No, I think, to be honest, you've done a grand job, and I'm sure that what Brother Cotton has explained shows you how you can achieve these mathematical functions with Excel and how simple it is to do that.
Yeah.
So the key thing here is just to look at, like you were showing, just to use the equal sign on the cell you want to. So basically, every cell that you want to put the figure is, that's the one you. So if I want this cell to have the value of the median, for instance, first thing to do is do the equal sign. Equal sign starts you off and puts you into function mode. Then we start typing it. Excel now knows it's median we're talking about. Okay, yeah. So we select that.
Yeah, that's taking a little while.
Oh, okay. So yeah. There's equals median. Okay. Oops. Spell properly. Okay. Then you can now select, for instance, that now. If I select all of these and close the bracket, you'll now see it's now done that median for this column here. Yeah. So the key thing is, wherever you want to see, it's important to know that where you do the equals, it changes. So this cell now is a function of all of these here. If you notice at the top as well, it shows you there. So this cell has this formula applied to it: median E11, so that's E column 11th row to E19. If I look at this next one, notice there's nothing applied to it. Yeah. So it's important to know. So if you're looking at a particular cell, it's important to have a look at this bar here. It will tell you what kind of function or formula is applied to it. Yeah. If it's blank, it's blank. There's nothing there. But you can see here, if I go to this one, for instance, you can see we have formula. We have functions applied to it. Formulas applied to these ones. You can see, yeah, minimum,
Yeah.
So that's important to note as well. Okay.
Yeah. All right, just as Pastor mentioned, so it's quite important as well to notice that as well. So again, just as you can see, the FX tells you that the function, so it's basically inserting the function to that cell. All right. I think the next one I have is the last one we're going to talk about today. So sorry, do bear with me. I'm way ahead of myself. So is the I'm going to struggle with the word now. Is the concatenate and the concatenate. Okay. So if we go back to the spreadsheets. So again, so you might be wondering, what does this do? So we're going to see what it does in a few seconds. Again, use your equal sign. So it's right there for us. So what we need now, so when we talk about that, we select letters. For example, we want to have if my name is John Paul, and I want to have that word together, so we can do that. So it's basically select, so we skip, okay, John. I want to combine John. So you put a comma, and we can close that. And that should give us John Paul. So you want to look at John Paul or someone's name as that John Paul. Again, you might wonder, okay, what about if I want to put space in between? I don't want to have it one word that just is John and Paul. So we can click on this, go back to our formula, or start again from the beginning. Brackets, so we're talking about John, and put a, okay, now comma, because we want a space, and Paul, and we close the brackets, and hopefully, it should give us a space. Maybe, let's see if I can add one more. Okay. There should be a space. See this. Okay. All right.
Okay, there's a way around.
There's a way around, but there should be a space.
So I'll show you another method as well. I was thinking about Excel. There's so many different ways to do that. So you can do it this way as well. So if we do, what do we jump for? So I can do equals. Yeah, and the cell there is B8, yeah? So you can see there B8, yeah, equals B8. Then you can do the ampersand sign, yeah, ampersand, yeah, and do B9. Okay, and if I move across, it does that as well, yeah. So you can use that as an option, to do concatenating it, yeah. So that's the beauty of it. So there are different methods and different ways to actually get formulas working in Excel. And another thing again is like you can do, say for instance, I use this example, you want to apply this to other. So for instance, if I say, let me just scrap this. Sorry, I'm just modifying this as we go along. Right, if I say Mary Jane, for instance, Mary, and this is good. Say for instance, if you have like maybe Mr. is there, and you have James, and Mr. James, and you have here Mrs. Williams. Oops, sorry, not the same. Next one. Yeah, Mrs. Williams. Okay, and then that's the third one, just for good measure. Miss Selma, for instance. Oops, Miss Selma. Okay, so you've got three names there. Okay, so now I want to do that. Now to create the space, we can do equal, and that is C22. So C22. Okay, let's highlighted that. Okay, do the ampersand and do D22.
Yes,
D22. Okay. And it now moves Mr. James across there. Now, what you can do again is that if you see this, you can drag that down, and it will now apply that formula to these ones. You can see it's pulled across Mrs. Williams, Miss Thelma into the same these cells.
These cells and the same formats.
Correct. Yeah. So you can you can apply the format to other cells by that. So you can actually just do one format. You can do one cell, and apply the format. So basically you will have this little dot in the corner, if you can see that. And if you highlight that and you just pull it down, it will now apply that. And another thing again, so like now I've applied it to those 6 cells, but there's already got the formula applied to it. Yeah, it's just waiting for something to enter. If you notice, there's nothing there. But the moment I do, maybe I put in Mr. Douglas, for instance. Douglas, you'll find out it puts him in there straight away. Okay.
Yeah, just as Pastor mentioned, so yeah, you can be able to do that. So it's quite important as we talk about in the formatting. So one of the formatting way of doing things is you can drag things along. Again, with all the numbers that we've talked about. So if you have several rows that you want to add, so if you drag it across, that should fill down or fill across depending on what you're doing. So it's quite important that the function is quite useful. So instead of having to repeat yourself over and over,
that's right.
So you can use that way to reduce the length of time that it requires, so making you more efficient, and as well as long as you are correct the first one, there's no errors, you did it right, you should be correct throughout. So that eliminates. So just always make sure that your first function and your formula are correct. Once they're correct, you can apply the rule to everything else in that row or column. So in this case, we're looking at column E, and Pastor just did it by applying the same rule as well to all of that. And you can see that it does match what we're looking for, and that's what we have. So this is just a recap. If we go back to our slide. So this is a recap to what we're doing. So we have done a lot of demo today, looking at the functions and formulas and functions. As you can see, we try to make it very simple. So the functions are very, very simple. As long as you know what you want to do, Excel is there to help, and it's quite friendly. So if you do have any issue, do look at the help. It should be quite easy to explain as well. So Excel is very friendly, and as long as you can apply the right function, the right formula, you should be able to get your desired result that you're looking for. Okay. All right. Yes.
Thank you so much, Brother Godson. That was wonderful. That was really, really good. And I believe that you've learned something very insightful, and we'll be able to, improve your Excel knowledge and be able to apply it as well in your different, day-to-day working. Okay, and I believe, just what I'll suggest is there's a saying, practice makes perfect. So just try to practice on a few of these examples that we've used, and try that as well. Try it at home. And before you know it, you'll be you'll be an expert. Yeah, exactly. So thank you once again for your time. We truly appreciate, and we'll see you next time around. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you. That was good. That was good.